Right, what do you want to go on to now?
We're not going to go to the big one yet.
We're not going nuclear just yet.
We're not going nuclear just yet. We're almost keeping this in a bit of a chronological order, which I think's great. It's been a long time since we've done one of those podcasts. Usually we chop and change quite a bit and just go straight to the drama. But actually, the drama was right at the end of the race. For those of you who weren't watching, it's right at the end of the race. Anyway, we're going to talk about the Battle of the Wingmen.
If you weren't watching, why are you listening to this podcast?
Go and watch it.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
You stumbled across some random Formula One podcast and you've got about half an hour in. I'm impressed.
Yeah, fair play. Stay tuned though; it gets better. So for the final time this year, I would like to talk about the Battle of the Wingmen and how each of their races may have impacted the results today. So Perez undoubtedly did an amazing job holding up Lewis. In fact, he allowed Max to catch up around 7 seconds in just over a lap and a half, which I thought was brilliant. Perez did everything he needed to do and some. So I can't remember what lap it was, but anyway, Perez is in front of Hamilton. Hamilton's caught up. Hamilton overtakes in the DRS straight, and we all think, okay, Perez managed to stall him for a second or two. That's pretty much it. Oh, no.
This is lap 20, by the way.
Lap 20. Thank you very much. So Perez comes straight back and dives up the inside of Hamilton, and I thought, this is amazing. Anyway, that goes on for a whole lap and a half, and Perez manages to slow down Lewis enough so Max can catch up, and Max was 7 seconds behind coming out of the pit stop phase. Now, if Bottas had a better day, could that have made a difference to the outcome in the championship? That's my first question. If Bottas was anywhere near Max throughout the safety car periods, would that have stopped Max and the Red Bull from boxing, knowing that Max would then have to overtake two Mercedes to get past and win the championship? Or would they have stayed out and potentially got track position over Bottas, assuming that Bottas was in P3 when the safety car came out? What do you think?
Well, regarding Bottas's performance, whilst he didn't have a particularly scintillating day under the lights, he had a pretty poor start. It was down 2 places right away. I understand he was really struggling with the engine. I think he was really down on power and may have been dealing with other reliability, performance-based gremlins. So whilst he didn't have a particularly great performance, I don't think his car was giving him everything, whereas he was surrounded by cars that were. And if you look at where he finished, he obviously ended up P6.
6, wasn't it? Yeah.
So ahead of him, he had the 2 AlphaTauris, who have generally been, I think they've, off the top of my head, I feel like they've shown a bit more strength near the end of the season. Sainz, like Ferrari, we know have brought in their new engine and perhaps been doing much better in regards to reliability and performance from that. And then, of course, it's Hamilton and Verstappen. So I think that maybe that is to be considered with Bottas's performance. And could he have had a better day? It's difficult to say, is what I'm saying. Basically, I think it would have been it's difficult to say how much of that is to do with the engine issues he was having. And then what was the other question? It was whether Bottas was close enough to Max during the pit stops. Did you say?
So assuming that Bottas would have been running in P3 like the majority of the year, but within the pit stop window for Max, when the safety car came out, do you think that would have changed Red Bull's decision to box Max onto the fresh set of tyres, knowing that Bottas would probably stayed out and got into P2 and then Max would have had to pass 2 Mercedes for the win? Do you think the absence of Bottas obviously made it a lot easier for Red Bull to play that strategy, knowing that they only had 1 Mercedes to pass?
Yeah, with that, it's quite a hypothetical scenario, but I think, if he's going to have to try and pass 2 cars, then that definitely would have made them think twice about it. But I think they still might have done it because they had nothing to lose. So
it wasn't working for them at the time, was it? Then this is what I kept on saying during the race. For them,
really.
I was like, they had to take these opportunities because chasing and driving wasn't working for them, so they had to try something different.
Yeah, so they might have still gone for it just because Max has not had too much trouble getting past Bottas in the past.
No, true. As
we've seen on quite a few occasions. So there's a few occasions where Bottas has not so much left the door open as opened all the windows as well and, put a lot of neon signs pointing as to which direction to go. Sliding doors and, French doors, the whole lot. They're all open. Or Finnish doors in this case, I suppose. But yeah, so that obviously would have played an impact. But I think the biggest thing is what you've already mentioned, which is Perez defending. Some of the best defending we've seen all season. Absolutely up there with Alonso's defense to keep Hamilton away from Ocon. And in many ways, maybe better. But because it's much harder to get past in Hungary, whereas this track is wide and there's big long straights, and I think Perez tactically the way that he approached it was fantastic.
Spot on, wasn't it?
Yeah. I've said it many times this season, but that's why they got Perez in that car, and that's why he's going to be there next year as well. So yeah, fantastic job, and just a great team player. Who'd not want that guy as his teammate if that's the way that he's going to approach it? I'm sure Max was and is very grateful. He was on the radio, wasn't he, saying Checo's a legend, etc. So
yeah.
But that played a huge impact as well, of course, because if Verstappen hadn't been able to catch up that amount, then later on in the race, I think Hamilton would have had the gap to have a free pit stop.
True.
So that would have completely changed. I mean, it would have been over. It just would have been completely over. So that was probably. There's all the what happened later on and the sort of the luck and the circumstance and the stewards, etc., FIA, blah 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 blah. But that's not the only factor.
Oh no, there's a lot
of
factors
contention for the win. So and I'm glad that you've said that, because it is being talked about as if it's this one thing that has manipulated the entire thing. And I get it; it is the single biggest factor, but it's not the only factor. The race is long. And also, there's the whole rest of the season to consider. So yeah, it's that's a big factor for why Max was even in contention to be close enough after the whole safety car debacle in the first place. Was Perez's incredible defense and slowing Hamilton down.
I think you make such a valid point, actually, because if Hamilton had got past Perez straight away, there would have been an additional 8 or 9 seconds on Verstappen. There would have been like a 25-second gap when Latifi put it in the wall, allowing Hamilton and Mercedes to box for a fresh set of soft tyres with no consequences whatsoever. But it was actually because Perez slowed down Hamilton so much that actually they took that opportunity, they took that strategy away from Mercedes. And we've said this time and time again this year, how the wingmen, Bottas and Perez, have played such a crucial part. And we've seen it where it's been one Mercedes and 2 Red Bulls, and the Red Bulls have dominated. And we've seen it when there's been 2 Mercedes and 1 Red Bull and the Mercedes have dominated. It's a team game. And fair play to Perez, because he's done that team an absolute solid. So yeah, very impressed. That's not to say that Bottas hasn't done some incredible things this year, because he's had a decent year as well. Not as good as previous years, but he's played his part. He's obviously won the Constructors' Championship, which everyone seems to have forgot about, especially Mercedes.
Including Mercedes.
They haven't even celebrated it yet. In fact, their Twitter bio...
that's what they were doing, wasn't it? That's what those celebration videos are. They're celebrating winning the Constructors. Arguably, that's the bigger championship, because it's the one that gives them all the money. And
yes,
I know the Drivers' Championship is the kind of the emblematic championship of Formula One, but the Constructors' Championship is arguably the bigger one for the teams, and they won that pretty handily.
So what they want to be putting on social media, or what they have put on social media, is very little with regards to their Constructors' Championship. In fact, their Twitter bio still says the home of the 7-time Constructors' Champions. And what is now on social media is numerous videos of Toto Wolff having an absolute, I don't know what the word to use, like amazing time in one of the Abu Dhabi's clubs, singing with all his, I can assume his colleagues, and having a great time because they have won the Constructors' Championship. And the penny finally dropped. Probably goes, oh, we've just won a lot of money. We're set up pretty nicely for next year. Let's reset. But if you didn't know, and you're not on Twitter, there's Mercedes are contacting everyone who's put that video on their feed, asking them for their email address and asking them to remove said video. So I think there's a bit of a PR nightmare going on. And if Mercedes
must
weren't
be their
already
first time on the internet,
oh goodness,
you can't just ask people politely to take it down.
To remove.
We need your email addresses. It's on the internet. Once it's on the internet, it's there forever.
I've seen it on Reddit. I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen it on TikTok. That video will be iconic. That video will be around for a long, long time.
What's wrong with having a little party? Like,
exactly.
Just enjoy, just
He's
enjoy
had a
yourselves.
stressful year. He's had a stressful day.
No shame in that.
Exactly. I forgot where we were, but yeah, fantastic battle of the wingmen. We always said that they would play into the championship battle, and Perez did everything he needed to do and more this weekend, from qualifying to the race to holding up Lewis. And unfortunately, he had to retire towards the end of the race because of reliability issues, or Red Bull were worried that reliability issues would cause a safety car or whatnot. How ironic is that? But boxed Perez, and he sat and watched the drama unfold. Arguably, he had a better view because he could watch it live on TV and with his crew rather than sat back down in P5 or 6 where he probably would have ended up in the race. But fantastic job from Perez. Brilliant drive, and definitely contender for driver of the day.